Hi friends, so I have a fun tutorial for you today. I came across these and thought I have to paint those. And I think this is going to be a really easy one for you. So it's going to be cotton. And I think these could be some fun little additions to your flowers to add in that are relatively easy. So we'll be using our side of our brush. I'm using, let's see, my Princeton, of course, big surprise, number 8 Velvet Touch brush. But any round brush will do, although I love my Princeton. And then I'm just using some 140-pound cold press paper, and this is actually rough. So I'm crossing my fingers that this comes out okay. I love the texture here. It's rough is even a little bit more than actually cold press. So let's get started. I think these will be really fun, and you could add them in for a unique little touch to any of your little flower paintings. So today I'm using, let's use our burnt umber. And actually, because cotton is white for the most part, I'm going to just barely use a little bit of my Payne's gray and brown, but it's going to be a lot of water in there. So it almost looks like a whitish color, okay? So I've got this color on my palette, going to use it very diluted, so that it's just a hint of color. And cotton is kind of in this little ball shape. So I'm going to create the first little piece here using my point and then going into the side of my brush to kind of create this round bulb shape. And then I'll do the second piece. There we go. Always retaining these white spaces. Remember, that's kind of my thing. I love. Going to grab a little bit more color here. And this kind of reminds me of in the fall when I paint pumpkins. It's kind of got that same feel. And then the back pieces are just going to be peeking out here and kind of rounded. So there we go. Now, while this is wet, you want to go in with your brown tones. These are all Winsor Newton I'm using. And we're going to add in those little brown pieces. Okay? Just tapping here and there, like so. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that, how it all blends together, I think, beautifully. And now I'm going to come down just a tiny bit with the stem here. And I'm even going to add in a little bit of black to this because I think that will blend really nicely. Won't this be a beautiful little addition to your watercolors? So there we go. Just tapping in and letting it spread on its own. So let's do another one here. Let's go right here. So point and then press, kind of creating like a teardrop shape. Point and press, point and press. So you're kind of coming around, keeping this ball shape that cotton seems to have. And then I'm just doing these little pieces in the back, kind of poking out. Okay, so I'm going to add now these brown little thorny pieces coming out, which I've picked cotton. Wow, be careful. Those can kind of hurt. And then I just have a couple of these sticking out here. Okay, I'm going to darken that a little bit. with a tiny bit of my Payne's Gray going in. I think these are going to be such a beautiful addition to your flowers. I mean, what fun to add kind of unique things in like this. I'm always trying to find some fun, unique things. So now we'll just join those stems together here. Let's do one more. I noticed in the pieces that I saw, they kind of had this little, I guess, the little, I don't know what you'd call these things sticking out. So make sure you add a few of those in. Now, if you notice, I'm preserving those white spaces because I love those. And you're just using the tip of your brush. So let's go in and we will do one more piece of cotton because for interest and composition, I like things to be in odd numbers. So let's put another one down here. So we'll have this one kind of facing out this way. So point, press, and create that bulb. Now that had a little bit more paint on it than I really cared for it. So I'm wiping my brush and then picking up some of that. So let's do another one here. Let me go into very watered down version. Because for the most part, these look white, don't they? So let's do this and come around. Maybe we'll just leave this one like more of a little bud. Like so. I'm going to go in with the dark brown. Maybe a tiny bit of that black Payne's Gray, Winsor Newton. And let's go in and make these little, these are the things that are sharp. I've grabbed them before when I saw cotton out in the desert. And let me tell you, friends, you do not want to touch them. So there's the branch. Okay. Look at how beautiful. Won't that be absolutely interesting in your paintings to add something like this? You could go back in and just dab some color, let it blend. So I think I'm pretty much done. I might add maybe one more. No, you know, I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to leave it at that because these would be coming out of your flowers. We could maybe do a little bud right here. Let's play with that a bit. So we'll just do this little round bud. Let me get a little bit more water and maybe make it curling in. So hopefully you can see this little bud. There we go. Very light. And then we'll add in some of those brown thorny parts. And let's curl it around here. There you go. Isn't that lovely? Now, if you notice, I talk a lot about creating interest by varying the values of your paint. So if you notice, this one is very light, meaning I have a lot of water in there. And that makes it look as if it's more in the background. So I'm just going to touch a couple little places here. Dabbing in, dab, dab, dab. And there you go. Beautiful, right? So I hope you'll try this in your paintings and just play with it. I think this could be really beautiful in tucked inside some of your little paintings and added in for some interest, something you don't see too often. So again, I love, by the way, this rough texture. I think I might start painting on this more. It's so there's actually a hot press, which is very smooth. There's cold press paper, which is what I typically use and has a beautiful toothy texture. And then there's this rough, which is really textured, but I really am loving the results I'm getting here. So play with the different papers. I'm not a big hot pressed paper user, but fan. I have got my Velvet Touch. If you notice, I used a lot of white space I left in here for interest. And then I played with the values. I've got my darker values, which just means I used more paint to water. And then like this is very watered down and it gives it that effect. It's in the background. So there you go, my friends. Play with this, have fun with it. I think this is an easy little one, and happy painting. Thanks for joining me.